Ed Junquet from Green Hat Kiteboarding, here to talk to you about being a heavier rider and some different gear choices that might help you out when you're first learning prone foiling, wing foiling, parawinging, or downwind foiling. So first we'll start off with like prone foiling. That's how I got into the sport, these different sports. And what I like to tell people is, obviously it's condition dependent, but if you're dealing with like 1 to 2 foot surf waves, you're going to want to pick a bigger front wing than the other average riders. Like a lot of the gear, when you look online, it's going to be, ridden and tested with an 80 kilogram rider. I'm about a little under 100 kilograms. So a foil for me is going to feel differently than a foil for them. Like they might be lit on a 1300 wing in 1 to 2 foot surf, but at my weight, I feel perfectly comfortable, and it's way easier to pump a 1300 than it is to pump 1000 at my body weight. So I like to tell people, and we have some examples here, the 7Cs by F1, they have the 1300. They also have the 1200. I believe there's a 1500 as well. So there's some different options there. Not to say that that's the only brand. A lot of other brands out there make these 1300 size foils in about like a 9 aspect ratio. And I think that's a great way to get started in any of the disciplines when it comes to the actual foil choice. For board choice for prone foiling, I like something that's like when you're learning, that's going to be like in that 50 plus liter range. And that's going to give you plenty of volume to get into the wave, and you're not going to feel like you're stuck with a board underwater and you're just not getting anywhere and getting any paddle power into the wave. So 50 plus liter board for proning, and like a 1300 somewhere around there, maybe a little more if the waves are even more micro, and if the waves are a little more powerful, maybe like a 1200. So somewhere in that range. And with all of these disciplines as well, 75 centimeter mast across the board is what I like to recommend, because it transfers to all the disciplines. Whereas like an 85 centimeter mast might only really be better for winging and parawinging. The 75 centimeter seems to be like pretty well rounded, and it's like a standard that can be used for everything. For winging, the next one up, this is like going in progression order for what I learned. I like these Core Halo Pros. I really enjoy the 5 meter at my weight. I didn't start out, however, on this. I actually started with like a 6.4 like old slingshot wing. So they do make a 6 meter in this. So I would recommend, if you're dealing with, 15 mile an hour to 20 mile an hour winds, a 6 meter might not be a bad idea, because it's just going to give you a little more grunt with your, being a heavier guy. Even when you're on a bigger foil, it's going to take a little bit more power to get you off the water than, say, an 80 kilogram guy. So I like 5 or 6 meter wings for that 15 to 20 mile an hour range. 1300 centimeter foils, it's going to give you like best chances for success, like getting started. And then board choice for winging, I like to go up in the liters. So it's pretty common for downwind subfoils to say like times 1.3 or 1.4 your body weight. So 130, 140 liters for a 100 kilogram rider. With the wing, you can go like a little bit less than that, like 1.2. So like a 120 liter board will give you plenty of volume that you'll be able to stand on it and feel pretty balanced while you're holding your wing and getting started. And then speaking to like width and length. So a 120 liter board that's 8 feet long and 19 inches wide is not going to be like your go-to wing board or beginner setup, right? That's more for like subfoiling, which we'll get into in a second. But with the winging boards, I like to go like in that like 6 foot to 6'6" range, and like 20 to 23 wide. Any wider than that, and you start to just induce more drag on the takeoff, and it's just going to make it harder for you to get off the water. And initially that might make it a little tippy for you when you're getting on the board, but it's going to pay off like after a few sessions and just getting used to it. So 1.2 times your body weight for the wing board, 5 or 6 meter wing if you're in 15 to 20 mile an hour winds, and 1300 centimeter foil, same foil that you'd use for prone foiling. Next one we'll take off the box is your parawing. So right here we have the North Ranger 5.2. This is going to be our gruntiest parawing that we have here in the shop. Once you, if you wanted to just skip the winging step, which some people do if they're coming from like kite foiling and they see this parawing and it intrigues them and they want to give this thing a shot. I think that the gear choice, foil-wise and board-wise for the wing would be very similar for the parawing. So you don't have to like overthink it and think that you need to go with like a parawing specific board right off the start if you're, you know, just getting into that. There will be, I'm sure, on the market in the next like year or two, more parawing specific boards, and that could definitely be a good option. Same thing, I would say 1.2 times your body weight. And then the final one, sup downwind foiling. So you're gonna want a bigger paddle. I like the Ono Ava 105. That has like a nice big blade and it gives you a lot of pull on each stroke. So that's really good. And same thing for the foil choice. I would say 1300, maybe even a little bit bigger, depending on the size of the bumps that you're looking downwind in. And same mast length. And then board, like I talked about before, 1.3 to 1.4 times your body weight. So, you know, 100 kilogram rider, you're looking at 130 to 140 liter volume board. And you want to go longer than your wing board. So it'll be like more stability will be gained in your length. So you'll see these boards that are like 8 foot, 8'4", 8'6", and it sounds like it's a really long board, but that's definitely what you want to go with. And then width wise, like anywhere from like 19 to 21. If you start to go narrower than 19 for your beginner sup, like your first sup, it's going to be a little bit more challenging for you to stand on it. So I find that, I mean, I wouldn't go any narrower than 18 if the board is like 8'6" long. I would try and keep it a little bit wider when you're first learning. So the reason that I mentioned these like 1300, 9.5 aspect ratio foils is that they're really well balanced and they'll give you a nice stable platform to stand on. If you try and go like a little too high aspect for your first foil, like this is the Eagle X900, you might run into a little bit more difficulty with just like getting used to manipulating and turning the foil because it has so much of a span and it's going to be a little more twitchy on the turn. So like it'll like lock you in on the turn. So we really like those like 8 to 10 ratio aspect ratio foils for when you're first learning. Yeah, so for another thing to think about is your tail wing and your stabilizer and your fuselage length. The longer you go, typically, the more stable the system's going to be. So if you go with like a large or a long fuse for whatever brand you're going with, it's going to give you a more stable platform to be on when you're on foil. And then the stabilizer is going to play a huge role in the amount that the foil can roll and also pitch stability. So we like to go with like a big stabilizer to start out, like maybe like around 200 centimeters of area, or maybe even bigger or a little bit smaller, but something that's going to give you a good amount of stability when you're first learning and getting on your first flights. I hope this helps all you bigger riders out. And if you have any questions, please add them in the comments down below and I'll do my best to answer them. And if you like this video, please subscribe, like, and share.